Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sah Viryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet.
Okay, Gurudev. So we were doing this shloka number 20, I think. Tyaktva karma phala sangam nityatripto nirashrayaha karmanyabhipravrittopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. Giving up the deep attachment results of action, always contented, being not dependent on anything, he or she does not do anything even though fully engaged in action. So I had a request, if any one of us uh, can just jot down, can write these down, that these subheadings of the different paras, and just post this in our group, Manana group, then it will be a good idea for us to go through that and reflect during the course of the day. Hmm? So if any of you is able to volunteer to do that, that will be wonderful. Sangha is attachment and asanga is deep, fast attachment towards the result of action, karma phala. The wise person has no fast attachment towards the karma phala, the result, because no one performs action without expecting results. The word asanga is used in this verse. The point to be understood here is that a jnani does not get anything out of a result. The person's welfare is not bettered or his or her happiness increased, no matter what the action or its result. This is because the wise person has given up all dependence on and attachment to the results of action. All that is given up is one's attachment. It is not the karma or the karma phala that is given up by the jnani. Only the deep attachment that one has to the results of action. This is made very clear here because the possibility of giving up karma phala is often questioned. The only reason a person performs action is because he or she has an eye on the result of action. Even while walking, the place you want to reach is kept in view. You turn here and go straight there because that is what you have to do to arrive at where you are going. Without keeping the end in view, you cannot undertake any type of action. How then can this attachment be given up? If I am not able to reach my destination, why should I not become upset? In fact, this is exactly what happens to people, and that is what we call asakti or asanga. If you are unable to accomplish if you're unable to accomplish something that affects you, then you have the karma phala asanga. Suppose there is someone who is always contented, nitya triptaha. For such a person, there is nothing to accomplish, the self being what it is and known to the person also. There is no dependence whatsoever upon any particular karma phala for his or her contentment. From this description of a wise person, we understand that other people do things for satisfaction, tripti, for achieving something out of the action done. If you are dissatisfied with yourself, you undertake something or other in order to get some kind of satisfaction, some self approval. The always contented, always secure person. Because there is some satisfaction in self approval, you want to prove yourself to be somebody, either in your own eyes or in the eyes of another. The problem here is that you do not accept yourself as you are. This is the only reason someone else's opinion can be so important to you and is in fact the problem of any samsari. Only when the self is clear, when there is self knowledge, can one be happy by oneself, with oneself, as we saw in the third chapter. This happiness does not depend on anything else. It is in oneself alone. For such a person, to be, and even when he or she does something, it does not affect a person's happiness in any manner. This always contented person, then, is one who has given up all attachment to the results of action. Such a person is also described as nirashraya, free from all dependence. He or she does not depend upon anything for security or happiness, knowing that there is nothing more secure than the self. In fact, everything exists because of this self. In the self, everything has its being. Even the mind has its being in the self alone, as does everything that is reported to the mind by the thoughts. Everything depends on Atma for its existence. Existence itself is the nature, Swarupa of Atma. Therefore, everything has its ashraya, dependence or basis in Atma, just as the pot depends upon the clay for its existence. A better example would be the situation of seeing a snake on a rope. When you take the rope to be a snake, the snake has its existence, satta, in the rope. The rope snake has no existence except the existence of the rope. Similarly, the world Jagat has no existence except the existence of the self. The person who is aware of this fact is Nirashraya, one who depends on nothing for his or her fullness or satisfaction, because the self as the whole is already full. The person knows, I am the whole, I am the ashraya of everything. In fact, everything is me. This person has given up all attachments to the fruits of action, not as an attitude, not by karma yoga, but by knowledge. A karma yogi also gives up attachment to karma phala, but by attitude, accepting Ishvara as the giver of the results, karma phala data. This person takes everything as prasada without reacting. But this is yoga, not jnana, which is entirely different. Yoga is relative, and therefore the person's tranquility is also relative. While this kind of mind is definitely useful for gaining the knowledge, the distinction between yoga, which is an attitude implying an understanding of Ishvara, and Vidya, knowledge, must be very clear. Because the karma yogi accepts Ishvara as the karma phala data, he or she has an attitude of taking things as they come and leaving them as they go. This means the person has a mind that does not react and is therefore not under the spell of raga dveshas. Here in these verses, the same karma yogi has the knowledge of the self as a karta. Therefore, even though this wise person may be engaged in an enormous number of activities, the self is not taken to be the doer. King Janaka was said to be such a person. Even though he was a jnani, he ruled a kingdom and he ruled it well. He had a handle on everything and always knew what was going on. The kingdom was prosperous and everyone was happy. Thus, a jnani can enthusiastically engage himself or herself in a number of activities and still perform no action. Naiva kinchit karoti saha, in terms of knowing that he or she. The self is not the role. An actor who plays the role of a killer does not take himself even before before he removes the makeup. He sees himself as not doing anything. And if, while playing a role, he kicks someone, he knows he'll kick. When he goes backstage later, he does not say to the person, "I'm sorry I kicked you." Nor does he need to excuse himself in this way. He may, however, ask whether it was a good kick, to which the other person may reply, "Yes, it was a good kick. It didn't hurt me at all. You kicked very well." Because they know they are playing roles, they can talk only about the nature of the action, but they cannot talk about it as though one person did something to the other and needs to apologize. The actor who kicked is not to blame, nor is there any action involved because there is no doership. There is kartritva abhava, and there is no karta either. Karma and jnana are in opposition. Kartritva, doership, is the whole problem. In fact, samsara is centered on doership alone. Atma Jnana, the subject matter of Vedanta, is opposed to karma in that jnana and karma are entirely distinct. Most of the Veda is karma kanda. Jnana Vedanta comes in the end. The end of the Veda, the last chapter, is Vedanta. Even though it is the last chapter, Vedanta is mentioned separately because there are two different topics involved, karma and jnana. One being entirely different from the other, the two are in opposition. Karma means samsara, jnana is moksha. Karma implies karta, jnana destroys the karta. Karma implies ignorance, jnana destroys ignorance. Therefore, jnana implies akartritva and karma implies kartritva. Keeping the karta that is already there in view, the Veda tells you to do karma. This is where karma can be converted into yoga. The karta is retained and the karma is converted into yoga to gain the maturity that prepares the mind for jnana, the discovery that you are a karta.
Jai Gurudev. Here I have missed out the part on the yoga. Can you please?
Um, there is yoga, as I mentioned, only once right now here. No, let me read this again. So, karma means samsara, jnana is moksha. Karma implies karta, jnana destroys the karta. Karma implies ignorance, jnana destroys ignorance. Therefore, jnana implies akartritva and karma implies kartritva. Keeping the karta that is already there in view, the Veda tells you to do karma. This is where karma can be converted into yoga. The karta is retained and the karma is converted into yoga to gain the maturity that prepares the mind for jnana, the discovery that you are a karta. So basically, karma is in the first part of the Veda. Karma is the first part of the Veda is addressing the karta. So here, what is being said is that karma is what you can see. Karma and jnana are poles apart; they are in opposition. But how does one gain jnana while doing karma? So this karma you convert into karma yoga. When here, what is meant by yoga is karma yoga. So rather than do kamya karma, you do nishkamya karma. So you prepare the mind for jnana. Is there anything else that...
No, this is clear.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
the
clear.
karta
Thanks.
is retained and the karma is converted into yoga to gain the maturity. That is why a karma yogi is, it's only a lifestyle, no? And he is a sadhak, he is a mumukshu. He's not yet gained jnana. He's not equivalent to a jnani. He only has relative shuddhi, relative tripti. He is not completely nirashraya. A person who is a jnani has that complete contentment. Whereas a karma yogi has the contentment, yes, but it is only temporary. It is relative. But once jnana dawns, then that becomes complete. And there's no looking back. There is no shortcut to maturity, and one does have to be mature for gaining knowledge. Maturity here, when Swamiji is talking about maturity, this is maturity of the mind. That is of a karma yogi who is equanimous, who does not react to situations, who takes everything that comes as prasada, who has that prasanna chitta, who does everything as an offering to the divine. And he considers the divine as the karma phaladata. So little bit of kartritva remains in a karma yogi. Otherwise, he will not be able to offer it and he will not be able to take what comes as prasada. But what by practice of karma yoga is happening to his mind is that it becomes calmer and calmer, quieter, neutralizing all the raga dveshas. And while doing this, he pursues knowledge. So in such a prepared mind, therefore maturity, there's no shortcut to maturity. One does have to be mature for gaining knowledge. Maturity takes its own time. Therefore, it is not a question of doing it in 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years. When one may have had numerous births before, 20 years or 10 years or 5 years means nothing. A man may have been studying Vedanta for 80 years before he begins seeing clearly. When he is 99, he may say, "Now I have understood." What does it matter that he has only one more year to live? Even if a person does not start until he's 80 years old and understands when he's 98, what does it matter? After knowledge, all that remains is prarabdha. Whether he lives another year, 2 years, or 3 years means nothing whatsoever. Maturity takes time. That it takes a person so many years to understand does not mean anything. The maturity required for the knowledge to take place, antakarana shuddhi, has to be gained, and there is no hurry. Hurrying it does not work. In fact, it is like waiting for a banana to ripen. You cannot sit beside the banana tree and say to a green banana, "Come on, hurry up and mature. Ripen so that I can eat you." You have to let it ripen. Only then will it be soft and tasty. It takes its own time, and there is nothing you can do about it. All processes of ripening and growth are the same, including the maturity of the mind. Yoga is meant for this purpose, for antakarana shuddhi. So when we talk of yoga with respect to Bhagavad Gita, it is not yogasanas, it is karma yoga. In this sense, then, karma is useful. And once the mind is ready, jnana takes place. Therefore, while jnana is opposed to karma, karma contributes to jnana, which is why karma comes first in the Veda and jnana comes afterwards. Karma has to come first because it is due to ajnana, ignorance. If a person takes himself or herself to be a karta, a doer, the person is ignorant. Therefore, as karta, retaining the kartritva, the person has to mature. Then only can jnana come. Maturity implies two levels, the subjective and the empirical. Subjectively, we gather a lot of problems, all of which have to be accounted for and taken care of. Then, empirically, there are wrong conclusions in terms of values, relationships, and so on, which also have to be taken care of. It is with reference to these levels of maturity that karma yoga comes in. Karma yoga leads to jnana, the knowledge that I am a non-doer. Aham akarta. Once this knowledge is gained, the person performs no action. So let me read this. Maturity implies two levels, subjective and empirical. Subjectively, we gather a lot of problems, all of which have to be accounted for and taken care of. Then empirically, there are wrong conclusions in terms of values, relationships, and so on, which also have to be taken care of. It is with reference to these levels of maturity that karma yoga comes in. It's like having yama and niyama. In Patanjali Yoga Sutras, there is something subjective discipline and how you deal with the world. So similarly, even this is, there are things that you have to take care subjectively. Then empirically, there are wrong conclusions in terms of values, relationships, and so on, which also have to be taken care of. It is with reference to these levels of maturity that karma yoga comes in. And at each of these levels, we have our likes and dislikes, interfering with our, that govern our behavior.
Can you
And that is
explain this little bit more?
the subjective and empirical, right?
Empirical, yeah.
Yeah. See, as I understand it, we can all share our understanding. As I understand, subjective is with respect to I, my understanding of things. And I have my own stories that I build. I like this and I don't like that. Whereas with respect to people outside, wrong conclusions in terms of values and relationships, we tend to interpret others' behavior. One is about our own self-talk that we have about ourselves, our self-approval, self-acceptance. And the other is about how we see the world outside. So with respect to both, we have to practice karma yoga. See, if you look at all our 5 principles that we have in our happiness program, it actually talks of See, opposite values are complementary. It is with respect to, you can actually apply each of them to both these levels, subjective and empirical. Subjective is deep within. You remain unflustered. You consider yourself as you take Ishvara as the karma phaladata, and you are just offering whatever you're doing as a yajna. With respect to empirical, with respect to relationships, also you are aware of your ragadveshas. For example, we tend to slot people into, I like this person, I don't like this. I can work with this person, I cannot work with this person. There it is not so much subjective. There is an element of subjectivity, yes, but it is more with respect to the other person. That's how I understood it. But if there is any other perspective. Because here, subjectively, we gather a lot of problems, all of which have to be accounted for and taken care of. So what are all the problems we gather? The first and foremost is that I am not enough. I am not secure. I am not happy. And then with respect to others, there are wrong conclusions in terms of values, relationships, and so on. So with respect to the Arishad Vargas, you can be angry with yourself or you can be angry with another person. So initially it is anger on the other person, and then ultimately it becomes anger on yourself. You're angry with yourself because you got angry. So both actually come into being when you are dealing with the world outside, isn't it? There is an element of subjectivity and there is an element that comes from the empirical, from your vyavahara, with interacting with others. And both these have to be taken into consideration. Both these have to be neutralized with respect to raga dveshas. I think as we read along, we'll get more clarity on this. If anybody else wants to share, please do. Because a karma yogi is one who is in the field of action. And in the field of action, he or she is not alone. There is a lot of interaction with people, with society. So there are two levels of experiences he's gathering. One from his interaction and the other his own self-processing of what is happening. So at both the levels, he or she has to mature. Thus the Veda, the first portion of the Veda, which deals with karma, is called Karma Kanda. The second portion, which deals with Jnana, is called Jnana Kanda, Vedanta. An analysis of the Karma Kanda in terms of what karma is to be done how it is to be done, and so on, is called Karma Mimamsa or Purva Mimamsa. Mimamsa means analysis. This is in the form of Karma Mimamsa Sutras written by Jaimini, a disciple of Vyasa. Similarly, an analysis of Jnana Kanda is called Uttara Mimamsa. This is in the form of Brahma Sutras written by Vyasa himself. In the Brahma Sutras, the sentences of the Upanishads are fully analyzed. The subject matter is further analyzed in the light of various schools of thoughts. This analysis is called Manana. Finally, what Vedanta itself says is established. I will read the last part. Similarly, an analysis of Jnana Kanda is called Uttara Mimamsa. This is in the form of Brahma Sutras, written by Vyasa. In the Brahma Sutras, the sentences of the Upanishads are fully analyzed. The subject matter is further analyzed in the light of various schools of thoughts. This analysis is called Manana. Finally, what Vedanta itself says is established. Vedanta is separate because karma and jnana are two different topics, neither of which is ordinary. This is the entire subject matter of Krishna's teaching in the Gita. When you understand karma and jnana properly, you are free. This knowledge implies understanding the nature of Atma as being a karta. Given the importance of continuing in the same vein, Krishna continues. त्यक्त्वा कर्मफलासङ्गः नित्यतृप्तो निराश्रयः. That's the full verse. So, nitya tyaktva karma phala sangam nitya tripto nirashrayah karmanyabhit pravrittopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. This was verse 20. I'm not sure anyone is doing this, just writing down these subheadings. Just jot it down in the Manana group itself and just post it. It will be useful for us. This thought just came to me yesterday. Thought maybe it will be a good idea for us to just reflect on those. That will take us back to what we read and understood and discussed. So, going on to verse. So, any Manana, let's do Manana before going on to the next verse. Let's share our understanding of this. So the jnani gives up not karma or karma phala. He continues to do karma based on his prarabdha. He gives up is deep attachment. Karma phala asanga, asakti. And a karma yogi, the first part of the Veda talks about karma kanda. It addresses the karta. And karma, jnana are in opposition. They are diametrically opposite. Karma implies ignorance. Jnana removes ignorance. Karma implies karta. Karma implies samsara. Jnana implies akarta and moksha. So, just by doing karma, you cannot gain jnana. You require to mature your mind. Therefore, you have karma yoga. You do karma, not just karma, but with an attitude of a karma yogi. And what happens when we do this? There is that antakarana shuddhi, that maturity of the mind takes place, which is then in the prepared mind, knowledge can dawn. He is not just practicing karma yoga, he is also pursuing knowledge. He goes to the Uttara Mimamsa, which is the Brahma Sutras. They are where the Upanishadic sentences are analyzed based on different schools of thought. What we are following right now is Bhagavad Gita, which is supposedly Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopala Nandana Partho Vatsah Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gitamritam Mahat. So Bhagavad Gita is actually the nectar of all the Upanishads. So that is why it is said, if you do the Bhagavad Gita and you understand what Gita is trying to convey in that the pure essence that Gita wants to convey, that itself is liberating. Yeah, let's all share before we go on to the next verse. See, being a karma yogi itself is very difficult. In the true sense, there is no hurry. What Swamiji says so beautifully, you cannot hurry up and to get this maturity.
Maturity happens in time and space.
You know, a beautiful example he gives is,
Maturity
you
happens.
need to have infinite patience.
Yeah,
You
time
continue.
Yeah, correct.
You know, we have these hibiscus trees here, plants here. 1 second. Huh? So what I was saying was that we have these hibiscus plants, and then when we start the Manana at around 5 our time here, they're all buds. Okay? But as time progresses, very gradually, slowly, by the time we finish, they actually fully blossom. So it was just, I was just thinking of that when Swamiji gave the example of the of the banana. And so you sit next to a banana tree plant and looking at the green banana, say, come on, mature quickly, I want to eat you. It's not going to happen. It will take its own time. That is where Shraddha is required. That is where patience is required. That is where then if you are in a hurry, what is it? You're again losing out on your antakarana shuddhi. Because you want things done in a fast manner. You want rapid results. Kshipram. That is why people follow samsara. Because they get quick results. But here, it will take its time. And as China had mentioned, and as what Gurudev says, You keep your house clean. You never know when the divine will enter. Number one is, of course, our physical houses, but our mental house, the mind, keep it clean. You never know when the divine will enter. And that's what Charnad also mentioned. This is the penultimate step is to have that samatva, seeing everyone in that samabhava and being in that state of stillness. And then that shabda itself is enough to, that shabda pramana is itself to ignite that knowledge. And once it ignites, it is, I shouldn't even say the word ignite. I think it's achirena digachati. It just requires a flash. And that's it.
Jai Gurudev. Yesterday I came across a beautiful sentence by Swami Tejomayananji. There is no Sri Hari if you are in hurry.
Very nice. See, hurry implies a sense of feverishness. I want it to happen. Like when you're curdling milk, you've just put curds in the milk. It will take its time. You cannot get curd out of milk in an instant. Even a seed to sprout takes time. A flower to blossom takes time. You can't forcibly open up a flower and say, come on, blossom. I mean, we tend to do that with respect to these lotus buds and all, but a flower that blooms in its own time. Similarly, the mind also. But there is this purushartha required. What is that purushartha? Is changing, transforming our attitude, inner attitude towards ourselves and to the world outside. I think that subjective and empirical is like yama and niyama. If you look at all the yamas, what are the yamas in Patanjali Yoga Sutras?
Ahimsa, all that, right?
Ahimsa, Satya, Asteya, Aparigraha, right? And Brahmacharya. These are all the yamas. These are all subjective disciplines with respect to yourself, with how you deal with. And then niyamas are, these are actually not subjective. These are what with respect to the society and the world outside. And what about the niyamas?
Santosha.
Santosha. Tapas, Svadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhana. There's one more we're missing out. Santosha. So these are with respect to your own self. Santosha is an internal feeling, right? So irrespective of tapas, again, it is to do with your own self, subjective. The yamas are those that show how we interact with others, and niyamas guide our own internal relationship with ourselves. So I think this may be the closest to what Swamiji is talking of, subjective and empirical. So yamas are ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, and aparigraha. And the niyamas are shaucha. We forgot shaucha. Shaucha, santosha, tapas, svadhyaya, and ishvara pranidhana. Maintaining that purity, not just in the physical body, in the surroundings and the mind. Santosha. Swadhyaya. See, Swadhyaya again is subjective, no? It is to do with you. It is not to do with the society or outside. And then tapas, again, it's an internal thing. Your discipline of, say, fasting or mauna, silence. All of this implies self. It's all subjective. Santosha, again, is an inner attitude. And then Ishvara Pranidhana, surrendering to the divine. So all this is subjective, and yamas amount to the empirical or to the society and people outside. निराशीर्यत चित्तात्मा त्यक्त सर्व परिग्रहः शारीरं केवलं कर्म कुर्वन्नाप्नोति किल्बिषम्. Nirashihi, free of expectations, yata chitta atma, whose body, mind, and senses have been mastered, tyakta sarva pargrahaha, one who has given up all possessions, kevalam, mere, shariram, for the sustenance of the body, karma, action, kurvan, doing, kilbisham, sin, na apnoti, does not incur. Nirashihi yata chittatma त्यक्त सर्व परिग्रहः केवलं शारीरं कर्म कुर्वन् किल्बिषं न आप्नोति. The person who is free of expectations, whose body, mind, and senses have been mastered, who has given up all possessions, doing only action that sustains the body, does not incur sin. While describing a wise person, a jnani, Krishna presents different kinds of people in terms of karma. We saw the jnani who engages in numerous activities, knowing he or she is not doing anything. Karmani abhipravrittopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. This was in the previous verse. Now, in this verse, while still describing the jnani, Krishna introduces a different type of person who knows that Atma is akarta. As in the previous verse, here also the first line describes the jnana and the second line describes the lifestyle of the person. So in the first line of the previous verse was what? Tyaktva karma phala sangaha nitya tripto nirashrayah. Karmanyabhipravrittopi naiva kinchit karoti saha. So the first line describes the jnana. The second line describes what he does. Despite him doing a lot of activities, karmanyabhipravrittopi naiva kinchit karoti sa. He does not do anything. Here also, it is nirashir yata chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha. So the first line describes that jnana, and shariram kevalam karma kurvanoti kilbisham. So he does actions only to take care of his body. He does not incur any sin. So the first line describes the jnana and the second line describes the lifestyle of the person. In this verse, the one who knows the self is said to be nirashihi, one who is free from expectations, ashis. Ashis also mean hope, but here the negative prefix ni in nirashihi does not mean that the person is hopeless. It means he or she is free from hope, free from expectations. Thus, jnani is one from whom all expectations have dropped away. And how does this happen? The hopeless person has expectations that are hopeless for him or her. In that, there is no way of fulfilling them. Because the person has given up all hope of fulfilling his or her expectations, he or she is desperate. This means that the person has not grown out of them. Such a person is frustrated and is different from the jnani, one from whom all expectations have dropped away because of discovering the self to be free from everything.
Maturity also, whatever he's talking about, we
Yeah.
have to outgrow all this.
See, the hopeless person has expectations. Here, Nirashi does not mean hopeless. He is only devoid of expectations. The hopeless person, expectations that are hopeless for him or her, in that there is no way of fulfilling them. Because the person has given up all hope of fulfilling his or her expectations, he or she is desperate. This, what they are talking of in these two lines, is a normal samsari who is hopeless, who is miserable, because there is no way of fulfilling his or her expectations. So he has a lot of expectations, but there is no way of fulfilling them, and therefore he becomes hopeless. This means that the person has not grown out of them. As long as we are in this attitude of having a lot of expectations, none of them being fulfilled, we are hopeless. We are caught up in this web of samsara, where such a person such a person is frustrated and is different from the jnani. What is a jnani? One from whom all expectations have dropped. He does not need anything from the world outside to fulfill him, to keep him contented. He is contentment complete. He is full. He is secure, and he is accepting of himself. So there's nothing else that he requires the world. He's not dependent on the world outside. So from whom all expectations have dropped away because of discovering the self to be free from everything. So we'll stop here and we'll continue tomorrow. How does one become free from expectation? They're also indebted to Bhagwan, Arjuna, Vyasa, and the scribe Ganapati for having given us this beautiful scripture. And to all the lineage of masters who've kept this alive. So in that gratitude, let's complete here today. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Jai Gurudev.
एकमेवाद्वितीयं ये ब्रह्मा निर्गुणं निश्चलं निर्विकारम् एकमेवाद्वितीयं ये ब्रह्मा अत्र वेदान्तमेव प्रमाणम् बोधक सद्गुरु तत्त्वनिष्ठः ईश्वरानुगृहीतेन वेद्यम् एकमेवाद्वितीयं ये ब्रह्मा ज्ञानगम्यं तुरीयं हृदयस्थम् आत्मरूपं हि तत् येन ज्ञातम् सोऽद्वनः पारमाप्नोति सत्यम् एकमेवाद्वितीयं ये ब्रह्मा ब्रह्मज्ञस्य तु ब्रह्मैव सत्यम् ब्रह्मैव सर्वं नास्ति मोहो भयं नैव दुःखम् तस्य स्वानन्दमग्नं हि चित्तम् एकमेवाद्वितीयं ये ब्रह्मा निर्गुणं निश्चलं निर्विकारम् एकमेवाद्वितीयं ये ब्रह्मा एकमेवाद्वितीयं ये ब्रह्मा ब्रह्मैव सत्यम्